Hi. Hi everyone, my name is Kabi, and today we are gonna watch the game on the map that's called Fields of Controversy. Quite a long name. And we also gonna see the non-mirror matchup. We can see in the bottom left corner, as the right dark player appears Giddle Brittle, and in the top right appears the player number 162, the guy whom we see playing quite often lately on Russian and English channels. And the funny part about it that he doesn't even share these battles with us, but his opponents do. And I'm not sure what's the reason for that. Probably the guy delivers the spectacular fights somehow, maybe being played actively, doing the fancy army compositions or things like that. Probably we can also notice this in this game, and maybe we can find out. And in the meantime, we see the guy sending the early worker across the map to make sure he will capture the watchtower. So the watchtower goes to his name. I'm not sure if it's honestly important to have the watchtower this early, but you definitely lose the mining time because of that, and that means that you also use the wood speed. So you get your wood later, and to compensate that, we see the player uses the lumberjack scroll, and that also means that he won't be using the golden rush scroll. And there's of course a possibility that he's simply missing the golden rush scroll, so probably he don't have them anymore and decided to find something to apply the other scroll. I'm not sure. I personally usually have a lot of those echo scrolls, but if you grind a lot of games every day, you probably might get low on them. Of course, you're supposed to play the arena mode to get the scrolls. You can also do a straight purchase in the shop. I'm not sure how many players do that, but there is a possibility. And also, of course, in the battle pass, especially if you buy the gold battle pass, there are a lot of scrolls with, scroll chests, so you get a lot. We also gonna divide the arena mode and the chest scrolls themselves to the light and the dark chests. So if you only main one faction, you won't be getting the other faction scrolls. So if you only play dark, for example, you won't be getting the light scrolls anymore, which should be way more convenient for the players than it's right now. So I hope we will make it quick, but we generally starting work on that already, so I hope it's soon coming in the game. And in the meantime, we can see both players go for the 2 rocks early tech. And what I mean as an early tech is that they opt for the race branch that is available for you even between the second tiers. So those are Undead Obelisk and obviously the Dwarven Forge. So we can see the Skeleton Archers against the Warsmith, and of course the Skeleton Archers are normally, or maybe call it naturally, are the better option, because the Dwarven Warsmith are obviously vulnerable to the piercing damage that Skeleton Archers do, but it also comes down to the positioning, because of course Warsmith also do the splash damage. So if the Skeleton Archers will be stacked all together and the Warsmith can get up on them, there will be a lot of splash, and also there is a penalty, if you remember, from the Skeleton Archers who can't hit the full damage with the full damage to the next cells or to the melee targets like this. So those skeletons are not firing with the full damage. It seems that Giddle Brittle was trying to move his Skeleton Archers to the lower part of the screen to make sure that he will get the one free when he dies, but that guy didn't even die. And at the same time, player made an attempt to build the artillery tower. It was quite obvious that the either gonna take it down, so I didn't really emphasize on that, but interestingly, there was at least a try of doing so, and if Kirill Bridle wasn't playing exactly the undead tech with the 2 racks, probably that one could have even worked, but actually players saw the technical choice from his opponent, but probably that was a bit too late, because the swordsman walked around the red base when the other part of the attack was already oranged and probably even taken off the base. So I think that it was a bit too late for the player to change his mind. So now eventually he's a bit behind in terms of the food supply, because we can see Gil Bridle being at 66 right now and player lagging a bit behind, but actually catching up already. But what I also always emphasize, and what I always you can't really underestimate that, and what I mean is how quickly you take up to the 3rd tier of your main building. It is probably the most obvious dividing part between the middle skill players and the players who's approaching the higher skill, because when you learn to play, you obviously do the stupid stuff, but then you actually figure out a little bit what units to make and how to tap on those icons on time, so you are not floating too high in resources, you don't have a huge bank. But the second step is to remember that you have to make the Tower of Mana and press on that upgrade, and you also need to have a place in your build order when you have that 400 in resources and you can afford to make that 3rd tier upgrade. It is crucial. And now we can see an interesting interaction, because Kirill Bridle is starting making those lizards to maintain a golden idol control, but the player is not about to give it away quickly, and not exactly the idol probably, but the middle chest that appears at the same time. And honestly, I'd say that that was a mistake of Kirill Bridle to even try to take the 2 objects at the same time, because of course your opponent will try to come and sneak away the chest from you, and you don't really want to expose your army fighting the lizards who are quite strong. Of course you have a big army and you will win, but you will have a lot of units remaining on the lower, maybe not low, but lower HP, and you really give your opponent an edge to try to sneak away the chest from you. And what we can see is player pushing off the skeleton archers, and at the same time reinforcing with the different units, including the archers, here in this spot. And I actually really like the army composition that the blue player has at the time, because the Warsmith and the archers work great against the skeleton archers, because skeleton archers start lacking what we might call the EHP, kinda an efficient HP. So simply put, they're just too fragile, and the Warsmith can tank for a long time while archers do the actual damage. So the only problem here, that the only hero here of the blue player is a Bombardier, and Bombardier can't really stand the Eater. So the Bombardier was retreating all the time around and actually doing the great job dealing the damage to the skeleton archers. But all the good come to an end, and this guy is very low now, but also the healers doing a great job, honestly. And I'm not sure, but probably that is also the right decision to fight the normal units with the light units, not really trying to focus down the Eater, because the Eater is very durable and it can take forever. And in the end, who even taken the mid chest? I think it was the blue player, but all of a sudden I'm not even sure. And this chest going for the blue player, and also the right one. Great job out of player 162. But at the same time, out of blue appears the big army of the undead, who's fighting this light army and the archers. I'm not really sure if I like the resurrection scroll, or restoration, or whatever we call it. Honestly, recovery probably, because it actually not restoring the health too quickly. But in the end of the day, it seems that Brittle was right on that decision, because skeleton archers are already full HP and they were really exposed after that magic blast that the player used. And the player continues to fight, but it starts to be really dangerous, it seems to me, because the blue player doesn't have a hero anymore, and that sounds like a problem to me. And what he decided to do is to make attack switch to Paladin, from the Bombardier to Paladin. And it may seem obvious, because you kinda need a front lane, because your archers sort of doing the damage, but the Eater pulling everything back, and you can't really fight the Eater. But the problem is that Paladin will be stunned the same way as any other hero, right? As Bombardier and whoever you may build. And probably the Bombardier is actually the better choice against the skeleton archers, because he can at least deal a lot of splash damage with either artillery strike or even the normal arrow attack, his normal attack, because the cannonballs have a lot of splash, and the skeleton archers, since you always have a lot of them, are very hard to split, so you can't really make sure they will be splitted widely in every single fight. So that's why Bombardier really do a lot of damage to this kind of compositions. And can Paladin do the same? Probably he can, if he can enter in the midst of the enemy's army. But what happens even more often is the things like that, when you are immediately stunned, and now the misclick of Brittle, who for some reason removed the stun from Paladin for a split second, but that didn't really have its impact. And now even the circle of power applied meteorite on that, half of the skeleton archers went down, but the necromancers also do the great job resurrecting a lot of skeleton warriors, who even starting to make a difference, because they are a lot in the battlefield. Also a sabotage scroll applied on the barracks. By a little mistake, the dark player is not focusing down this barracks, because remember that sabotage scroll does not only disable the buildings but also reduces the resistances, so you can really take the building quickly, and the red player comes on top, which the picture didn't tell to us, because we are still developing this feature. But anyway, great play out of both of the players. Probably slight mistakes in tactics from player who went too far ahead. Probably he should have get back for a little when he won the middle fight and also captured the chests on the 10th minute mark. Probably it was a point to cool down and pull back for a little bit. He didn't do so and ended up losing this fight, but that was a very intense game and I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. And here we're gonna wrap it up. Make sure to sub to our channel so that you don't miss the next video I'm gonna release on the next Sunday. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.